Awesome. So qualifying potential buyers and sellers, session 13, here we go. And then let me see if I can, maybe it'll work now. Maybe that's gonna happen there. So lead follow-up. Now we're going through qualifying potential buyers and sellers. You guys kind of heard me talk about that triangle needs. At the very top, it's the individuals who you have agreements on already, listing agreements on that you can get price reductions. And then you kind of work your way down to like, who are the people that you can list or meet with today or this week to get them under agreement. Who are the buyers under that level? It's like, who are the buyers that you already have pre-approved? And they're just a matter of going out and seeing homes and writing negotiating contracts. And then you're moving the rest of your pipeline, qualified sellers, getting closer to the line, whatever the interaction, the need, or the event that needs to happen in order to have them list with you. And then the same with the buyers. And then below that will be your general population. We're gonna find them motivated, classified by able, ready, and willing. We actually call it raw with my coach. That would be like, they're ready now, they're able to purchase, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get a home. You guys have heard those stories where someone will fly in from France or fly in from Florida and say, look, I'm not gonna Airbnb for a month. I'm just gonna go out this weekend, buy a house all cash, close escrow within a week, all right? And we have those stories where people are that gung-ho to like secure something, and they are probably sitting on your database in terms of a referral or whatever it is. Qualified buyers and sellers, and we're gonna go to recaps and ahas. Yep. Your number one job as a real estate agent is to find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers. Thoughts on that?
It makes it sound so easy, you know, just gotta be in the right place right now.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. It almost sounds like fake, like Jedi stuff, you know, like, oh, if I just think positive, you know, they're gonna just come to me, right? And you know, yeah, right. Who said pretty much, yeah.
No, but I mean, like, obviously we have to put the work into it and be positive that hopefully we'll run into these. But we have to like go through the filter.
Figure out,
Yeah, I think of it this way, like, I call it the Norby effect. My mom's name is Norby, and she is like the godfather for her circle,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you want, you want a hard money loan, you go to her. You want someone to be your godmother for your kid and know that that person will like drop $100 every time there's a birthday party, go to her. You know, so she's kind of that cool person in that field. And I
Is
tell
my mom and my mom related?
that's awesome.
She's like exactly the same.
Yeah, she rolls around in her Mercedes, you know, it's just all for fun. I mean, she had a very tough, you know, life growing up, but yeah, to that
Same as
point,
my mom.
yeah,
That's
that
right.
toughness kind of grew this person who's
And it's
all loving.
positive.
Yeah,
Like, I'm like, dude, wow, like, how do you?
nothing upsets her.
Yeah.
She lost $200,000 one time to a family member. Hopefully they never watch this video. But she lost that much money to a family member, and you know, she was pissed about it for a while and then let it go. Right? She was like, oh, I'm losing too much sleep over this. And I'm like, wow, mom, that's awesome. You know. But I bring her up because all of us have that person, that sort of person in our lives where everyone just kind of gravitates towards them. They've had a long career, you know, they didn't screw people over. A lot of people have deep respect for them. And you know, you win someone like that over in your sphere of influence, their sphere becomes your sphere, right? Their core people become part of your core people, right? And that's kind of being in the path of motivated buyers and sellers. They go to her. Right now, you know, unless I do something really dumb, she's gonna refer them to me and say, oh, you need to talk to Philip about buying a house ASAP. You know, she could be working with a patient. I think there's maybe a little gray area here, but she referred a client who's like, hey, I need to sell this house ASAP to pay medical bills. Like, whoa, that's someone who's ready, willing, and able, or ready, able, and willing to do something. Right. And if you get into more of those people's paths, and then the obvious stuff is Zillow and OpCity and Rise and all the aggregates that are already kind of throwing people your way, a pay to play situation. But within our own markets, you have that. Now, if maybe you're like, well, I don't know if I have that many people. Great. Well, what about this morning? They did a business to business kind of interview with somebody named Brandon from up north. And the idea was partner with the local businesses. Bold actually teaches a segment of that, of going business to business, finding referral partners, and not just on a referral base like team referral, but hey, how can we strategically market together? You own an auto shop, awesome. Wow, well, I own a real estate business, great. How do those two work together? Well, what if we just cross-marketed to start? You know, you're in constant conversation with people and shooting the breeze. What if someone says, hey, I'm thinking of selling my house, you have them come our way. We have a market center. What if we put up your auto stuff in some of these office spaces in order to generate more business for you or my own client database? You know, so you can find a way to create a value proposition, and that's with a complete stranger. That's not someone that you know in your database. You could go through Yelp and call all the 5-star locations and see if there's a marketing person. Sometimes they do, and you can connect with them, the manager, the owner. And one last little bit, I used to sell insurance, and our best clients were always those who were like upper level management. So if we ever got through the gatekeeper to the manager or the assistant manager, even Foot Locker guys and gals, they were making like 60 grand at the time. You know, so you figure $60,000 from partner A, another 50 to 80,000 from partner B. That's one household income, right? That qualifies to buy a condo, but it qualifies to buy a house relatively here in our valley. Yeah, so just some ideas.
I started doing that. I went to my nail place the other day and I said, oh, I'm gonna start selling homes. And she said, give me some cards, I'll put them up here. And I said, great. And so I went to the place where I get tacos and I was talking to him and he said, and I said, you mind if I put some cards here? He goes, no, I'll tell them all about you. Oh, great,
Awesome.
thank you. And then I was like, I'm one of my dry cleaners.
There you go.
Actually, thanks for reminding me, I gotta do that one, dry cleaner.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, anyone online, Christopher, Rachel, Christine, Nicole, Monique, do you happen to do that, or any thoughts on the boat here on the screen?
Sorry, Philip, I'm eating my brunch.
Oh, no, for sure, yeah.
My agent is find a way to get in the path of motivated by themselves. I mean, I guess for me, sorry, my mouth is full. Is that I just talk the talk everywhere I go.
Yep.
And like you guys know, I wear my badge. That's my thing. You know, I'm realtor everywhere I go.
That's right. Yeah, Evie just had an aha moment, like, we need badges. I'm like, yes.
I've been
Yes,
saying
you
it for a
do.
while, I just keep forgetting to look, to find where it is that they offer them.
Oh, that's so cool. It's like, I picture when we're wearing our scout uniform and it's like DSA or whatever, and you're like, oh, they're Boy Scouts. Like, yeah, clearly, right? We should wear our badges proudly, like, hey.
Yeah.
Keller Williams.
And you know, I think too, if you talk the talk in your regular conversations, you're not selling, you're not asking, you're just saying, oh, you know, that they're asking you things like, I'll give you an example. I have a kayak group that I kayak with every week.
Seeing that.
And we go around the island, you know, in Westlake, and there'll be signs up, and they immediately go, Christine, how much is that? You know, like they ask me questions just for and you know, I just built myself up. That's who I know. So on my kayak, I get my little thing and I go, oh, that one's this one. Oh, that one just took a price reduction. Oh, that one. Like, I'm so smart, you know, because I got the little app, you know, phone app, and I can answer the questions right away. So I think it's just, and I'm not selling them, I'm not pushing them. They just know who I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's just so like the way to do it, you know? I mean, it's not really like wearing a cap here and there. It's kind of on all the time. And that's how you get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers, right? And that's just one of the ways, just living life, you know, and you're a magnet for that. Thank you for sharing, by the way. And you know, that little pregnant weird pause, that weird silence that we had before thankfully Christine jumped on, that's how it sounds like when I'm on an appointment meeting with a potential seller. The closing question, the closing question is always, hey, based on everything that we've covered today, is there any reason we can't get started? We wouldn't be able to get started this evening, this afternoon, whatever time of day it is. And it's awkward. It can be awkward. Like, they'll just stare at me, look at the paperwork, browse through the folder. I'm still like quiet.
If someone wants to speak, and if you do, then you might stop it, but if you.
Oh
stay
yeah,
quiet,
totally.
They'll finally say yes.
Yeah, I mean, they made a joke about it in the movie. I forget which that was Wolf of Wall Street, one of them, but it's so true. The first person who speaks does indeed lose. I was with an appointment with Rick, and I was like, Rick, just don't say anything. And then when we did ask the question, he started selling more. Like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And the client was like, oh, I really have to think about it now.
Oh, no.
You know, and it was like, of course you do. You know, and Rick's like, oh, I don't know why we didn't get it. And I was like, well, we're gonna come back again tomorrow or whatever. And you know, when we asked that question, that was my bad. I should have prepped them for it. Hey, let's not say a word. Sip our tea, drink our water.
Regardless of how long it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was Dale Shoemaker, the second time we went to his house. You know, we literally stood at his door. I had a cup like this, and we just sit talking. He had a clipboard. You know, we actually couldn't sit in his house the first time, neither the second time. So he's okay, where do I sign again? Awesome.
Like this.
Yeah.
You're kind of like,
Oh yeah, sometimes they'll just start talking and ask more questions, and it might be something like, hey, is the commission really X? I mean, what's the value in us paying that commission? Great, now we have some dialogue, right? Or it might be, oh, hey, do we really need to have open houses? Yeah, I really love that you love to market, but I really want to be low key. And that's when all the real objections come out. Right, and that's when we can really assess them. So that's like maybe closing question number 3. We're not gonna get into listing dialogue, but we should do something like that. I know in Bold we covered that a bunch, but our listing presentation is very simple. A lot of it's covered ahead of time. Get the needs analysis done, pre-qualifying questions, their net goal, the client excitement themselves. So we cover so much on the phone call. The in-person is really meeting with all decision makers. You know, like when I'm calling, if the husband or wife doesn't know what their spouse's goals are, and we weren't able to connect with the spouse for whatever reason to get more information, now we're like, okay, we got half the story. Now we got to fill in the other half of the story, right? And sometimes, you know, they're equal. Like, oh, cool, they share the same goals, same vision. Thumbs up, let's go. Or you know, sometimes you'll have one person defer to the other, which is fine too. And then we know in the back of our heads, hey, this will be a bomb later on in the transaction. You know, we'll work on that relationship and getting more from spouse A or B or whatever afterwards. So those are just some things to look out for. So find the motivated, dispel myth understandings. What myths do you hold about finding buyers and sellers? Any myths, you guys? Any like, hey, no, I can't find them because, you know, home prices are way too high or interest rates are too high. Any of those kind of myths?
My sphere of influence is too low, or they don't want to, or they don't,
No, I'm with you. Like, oh, why would they work with me? I'm brand new,
yeah.
right? Like, oh, they only know me as the insurance guy.
Yeah.
Oh, they only know me as Norby's son. Like, why would they? Oh, they already have a realtor. Oh, you know, they'll just call him Ben Chad. I mean, these are like myths. Yeah.
Great knows. Have you closed anything yet?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, you asking that question, like,
Oh yeah. You remember we kind of covered a example. Like, you're right. I haven't closed a transaction yet. However, the group I'm working with, they literally close hundreds every month. And I just kind of gently slide that plate over back to them, right? Yeah, like, oh, here you go. And that was early on when I was overcoming my fear of calling my sphere, you know, after I'd lost my cousin, right? Oh, darn. But you know, one of those things, I lost my cousin, as if she bought a house from another agent, and because I didn't call her, right? And tell her that I have a real estate license. She's still awesome. Her home's now worth, I don't know, what's Selmar going for, 800 grand? So, yeah. No, didn't lose her, like, die. But my point is that things, you know, there's ways to kind of overcome those challenges that we all come across. Like here, they'll go through how buyers found their agent. And this is like, I thought was kind of cool. If you look at all buyers, 47% referral from is a friend, neighbor, or relative. First time buyers, more than half. So that tells us at least half the time if we're putting ourselves out there, they will work with us simply because, hey, we're going to cover a need. And then 40 repeat buyers worked with the same agent 41% of the time, right? Used agent for previous transaction, incredibly low. If you look at the National Association of Realtors like information, it actually says that 80% of people would have actually worked with their past agent if Philip stayed in touch with them. If their past agent actually stayed in touch with them, they would have worked with us. If we just kept a decent amount of like contact, like not even their birthday, just, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
It wasn't even like this extravagant 36 touch. It was just, hey, they just stayed in touch with me, I would have likely gone back. Most of them couldn't even remember their agent's name,
Yeah.
right? That's crazy. Inquired about a property they saw online. Now, this whole myth about people going online, 7%, a website, 7%, 9%, 6%. So all buyers, first-time buyers, you know, this is where it's kind of nuts. Let me move this up here. And then with for sale open house signs, very low percentage, 5% on all buyers, 5% first time. Referral from another agent. This is where KW Connect and our networks come into play, and also that is very low. And then visited an open house, 434. Now I will say, like, you know, the goal of open houses and all the other things that we do, though it would come across like a lower percentage, it does show us where that relationship, like if I'm Jocelyn's friend, I go to Evie's open house. Oh wow, this is pretty awesome. Whether or not I put my correct information on, I might just go back to Jocelyn and say, hey, Jocelyn, I went to this open house, what do you think? And then she might just end up writing the offer, just because there's like a relationship already established. Now, let's say Jocelyn's like, you know, I'm only doing property management, I'm not doing sales. Oh, okay, cool. Let me call that Evie and Brittany, or whatever the scenario is. My point is that the sphere of influences and growing those relationships, or even however you meet them, whether it's like an online inquiry, like we're doing a lot of that now with KW Command, or an open house sign up, or farm, or a micro farm referrals. All of these people here eventually become referrals themselves, right? So growing this base, referral from friend, neighbor, relative, could be these people in your database, right? Just kind of extrapolating that out a little bit. How sellers found their agents: referral from friend, 39%, first time sellers, 47%, repeat sellers, 35%. And if you go down from an open house, it's 1%, right? But again, you're building off of very large scale numbers, and the database is key. What I saw with Steve was like, he has this magical power where he can stand, talk to someone, and just knows everything like a script about the house he's selling. I mean, it was awesome. You guys ever see Harry Potter? Remember the guy who's like with the big beard? What was his name? I forgot his name. The guy who runs the tower. Oh yeah.
Didn't you catch
No, did he? Recently? Oh yeah. Sorry for going off on a weird tangent, but that he reminds me of that character, like where he's really just lovely and everything else. And this is from Rachel. I feel like homeowners are in love with their mortgage rates, so it's challenging to get them motivated to list their homes, even if they are interested in moving. That's a fabulous perspective, fabulous point of view. On that note, I will say, people who are in those great rates, maybe it's an opportunity for them to lease and purchase, right? I mean, don't do a refi and lose a 2.1% rate, but maybe, you know, you get a realtor to look at what rental comps are, or a nice little property management company that happens to do that, and they can find out, like, wow, I didn't know Canoga Park rents for $5,000 a month, and on my mortgage is only 25. Maybe I can, you know, rent out this house, do a HELOC, and then buy another property. And that's just something to kind of throw out there as a potential option. Or maybe they have funds in other accounts. So this is where, you know, we're not financial advisors, but you kind of take a step back and look at their entire financial purview and say, well, Philip, you know, you've got some money saved here. Have you thought about buying another house with owner occupant down payment in terms of like a 3 to 10% down? You don't have to do 20 or 30 as a non-owner occupant. What if you did 10% on the next house? This home is now cash flowing X amount of dollars. and now you're in another home that you've always wanted. Yeah, the rate's not that great. However, and then you kind of go back to the motivating question, why would they want to move? What, and we have a solution for them to move. Now we gotta find what's their motivation to move, right? So we can solution, but we still need motivation. And my motivation might be, hey, I want to get into the Las Virgenes school district. I'm willing to eat the tax increase. I'm willing to eat 5% on my rate, as long as my kids are in a quote unquote safe school district, right? And so that might be the scratching that kind of opens up and finds the gold, right? And you guys heard me say this story about failing 3 feet from gold. You guys hear that story? A prospector goes out, and he's prospecting, he gets all this family money and goes out and buys a lot of land. And he goes, buys the material, starts digging for gold, they find a little bit of gold. They go back to smelt it, pay back some of their debts. They go back again, they start digging, the gold is gone, right? They dig and dig and dig and dig and dig, finally quit. They sell it to this junk guy, and the junk guy says, cool, got this land, got some equipment. He does the smart thing, he goes and talks to an expert, a geologist or whatever, and they go and find out that if they just kept digging 3 feet from where they stopped, they would have found all this gold reserve in that whole freaking mountainside, right? And why am I bringing this up? You know, you just gotta keep on climbing, and sometimes that 3 feet from gold might just be a series of questions to unlock someone's brain into, oh, wow, I never saw it that way. Or wow, you know, Philip, you're right, I do want to send them to ABC school, and I didn't know I could get there. It seemed like a pipe dream. And they'll find out that they're a lot closer than where they're at. A lot of times we're just living our lives, and we have our jobs, we've got whatever's going on, and we just kind of tunnel vision. Think of yourselves as the coaches for those friends of ours in the tunnel vision and say, hey, take a step back with me. Let's look at this all together. It might not be an immediate appointment or a sale or whatever, but what it will be would be a conversation that helps them move along the line, right? And then they go into your opportunities. So if I'm your client or your contact or lead, your contact who's now lead, I might be someone who says, hey, Jocelyn, I'm thinking of Las Virgenes School District. My challenge is, hey, we have this house, you know, like Rachel brought up, we're concerned about, you know, losing this great rate, having to start over again, or losing this house altogether. I mean, what really are our options? You know, all I see is being stuck in your park. And then you can kind of take a step back and help us assess, hey, what are your options, and build it from there. Like let's do a case scenario. That's me. You guys fire away online or here. How do we get Philip and Monica to explore the idea of listing, selling our home, or maybe leasing our house out and buying another home?
Do we know we're trying to find out the motivation to do that?
Oh, okay, great. So you're starting at the right place. Motivation. What questions would you ask?
I would ask, so, you know, you guys have, I know you guys are, you know, busy with your, you know, 4 kids. Is there any, if you had a dream, are you currently living in your dream home, or do you have a dream house? Do you guys have a dream house?
Great that you asked. We thought of renovating our house, but we figured with the amount of money we would put into renovation, it might be a better idea to buy. But we're just concerned that we're buying at the wrong time, or, you know, right now, as you know, our rate's fairly low, and we've heard that rates are like 6-7% right now. I mean, it's just wild.
So if you, if you were to buy, you know, what are some areas that you guys would buy from if that was an option for you guys?
We would definitely look at anything that would get us into the Las Virgenes School District.
Okay.
I guess the closest would be like Calabasas or maybe Agora Hills from an affordability standpoint, maybe Thousand Oaks. But that's kind of where our mind is at.
Okay, so definitely sending your kids to that Las Virgenes area school district is something that's really important to you guys.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if we can work with, you know, something to get you maybe not exact rate that you guys are hoping for, but something in that and buying a house that you guys, would be interested in, would you guys be open to, maybe looking in those areas?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's
do you
cool.
think it's something we could like fit our current budget? I mean, is that something, well, what's your thought on that?
It's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Let's take a step back and see, what options we have, and we can kind of go from there. We can definitely see if that's something that is doable.
Absolutely, and see, guys, Jessica's on the way to getting a listing appointment with Monica and I, right? It's like, whether on the phone, at school, wherever we're having this conversation. Now, I'm intrigued, like, huh, okay,
Saying that, there are options.
There are options.
There could be options.
yeah, and I kind of teed myself up in a way where I'm like, oh, aren't rates 6-7%? I don't think they're that high. They're not that high yet, but yeah, not yet. But if someone's like, oh, the rates are out of control, let them say their piece and then save that for a part of your argument or part of your presentation later on. Because then it's like, oh, hey, while we're still in this thread, now this is where a little bit of like lender knowledge comes into play, but if they're buying something on a jumbo loan, the rate's under 5%.
Yeah.
Right, it's like 4.5, 4.75. So that might be the straw that gets me to say, hey babe, we gotta sell, or whatever. Or hey, we gotta maximize that. And then you can be the consultant who says, and one of the pre-qualifying questions on the phone or in person is, hey, have you ever thought of just leasing out your home, taking cash flow and buying your next home with other proceeds? Like someone like me, that would have been like, oh, like, wow, we could do that. And then I would definitely explore that idea. Whereas my wife would be like, hey, we just gotta bail and sell the house, right? So good job. Any other questions that you guys would have asked or kind of thrown in there to kind of open up? Because your questions got me to open up and think a little bit. And my personality, if someone asked me for my dream home, I was like, definitely not the current house, grateful for it, but not this house specifically,
I guess
right?
for me, it would be like, how do I know like the different things that I can assist them with? It's obviously I would find out before like qualifying them.
Right.
With asking the qualifying questions and finding out so that when I go in there, I can have those options and I kind of know what's important to them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if off the bat, they're like, no way, we don't want to deal with tenants, great.
Okay.
That's one less thing to bring up. I might keep it in the back of my mind in the event that their partner or spouse is like, no, totally, Philip, you bonehead, she's talking about giving us $2,000 a month from a tenant, like, so I would leave that kind of in the quiver or like in your little utility belt. But if they happen to be on the same page, I won't belabor the point, I'll just on to the next question or next topic. And think of the appointment more so as a needs analysis.
Yeah.
What are their needs? What are their goals? What do they want from this experience?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know they have like the listing appointment that you can do like in 30 minutes or less. We tend to take more of a consultative approach and just kind of finding out the grander picture of where they're at. Let's see, Rachel said I would have also mentioned Castle Park.
Castle Peak.
Oh, Castle Peak in West Hills. It's one of the most affordable areas in Las Virgenes. Wow, I did not know that. So wait, the Las Virgenes School District leads into West Hills? Wow, holy cow. Well, there you go. So that's like being a hyper local agent.
Yeah, and Bell Canyon also is part of Las Virgenes.
Dang.
What did she say, Kegel?
Bell Canyon.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't know that. Monty lives in Bell Canyon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here on, yes, Bell Canyon is part of that, but here homes are very expensive, right? So,
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you guys for sharing. So that's being hyper local and knowing your way around stuff, right? I would just keep this in mind that WhatsApp group of the KW family, forward living family, that's golden. Like I'm very limited in my knowledge of Las Virgenes, other than by us working here at this office or like being agents here, we have access to send here because it's cool here. So
Isn't that cool?
yeah, that is awesome. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. No, I'm joking. You got me for at least the next 10 years. I'm joking. But no, it's kind of cool. That was like a bonus. I didn't even know that was a thing. So ahas, I think we covered a couple of them. Any ahas that anyone would like to share before we move on?
nice to do more of those kind of,
Role play scenarios.
yeah,
Mhm.
you know, like, really, because
Learn from him,
I was uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie. You know, because I don't know yet, like the questions, even though I listen to the videos, like YouTube and everything, but it's,
Can you guys do me a huge favor? One of you guys just text me or blow up my phone and say, Philip, email the roster of questions. Just tell me that and I'll make sure to get it out there. When I first joined real estate, never thought about this, but our scripts and role play wasn't scripts and role play. It was actually, you know, just questions. We actually would read 80 questions straight down,
I like
front and back. And it wasn't,
Cause then you have to memorize
yeah,
this script back and forth
right.
dialogue.
I feel like we're not dummies, right? I know how to say hello to somebody.
yeah,
I know I can
Yeah.
say 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street is 800,000, whatever.
Yeah.
I get that, but then it's like, hey, I'm interested. And the idea is how do you get more from somebody is by asking good questions. And the basic questions ran something like, I'm drawing a blank right now, but if you were to sell, where would you move to next? You know, if you were to purchase, do you need to sell this one house or do you have other homes that you would like to sell? Do you need to sell this house in order to purchase the next one, or do you plan on using other funds? Do you currently rent or do you currently
See,
own?
those are really awesome questions that
Mhm.
aren't gonna come to my mind when it's
Yeah.
someone else.
And you're at an open house and it's like, do you currently rent or would you plan on, you know, do you currently rent a home or do you own a home? Oh, I own several. Oh, really? Do you plan on buying all cash with this home or do you plan on leveraging financing? Totally leveraging. Great. Would you need to sell one of your assets to purchase this home or do you already have the money for the down payment? Oh, great question. I mean, I would rather sell my condo and then make the purchase. Now you got a listing and potentially the buyer. You know, if you were, I don't know, what was it called? If you were to select one of your neighbors, which neighbor would you get rid of first? Although it's tongue in cheek, they definitely have to be like a fun person to receive that. But and then that's,
Believe me,
yeah.
everybody has a response to that one.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, depending on the rapport that you build, I think of it, I watch my son do jujitsu and there is no form, right? It's almost like they'll practice a technique, but it's like asking a question. So when the kid does this and you're in a headlock, you're gonna push off, slide away, now you're in the back of them. And I'm like, whoa, that looked like magic, right? As they're practicing it, but for us, that's just Q&A, you know, just asking good questions pertaining to what they're doing.
Kind of sound a little bit like Kevin Ward's listing script.
yeah, Kevin Ward.
Oh.
I listened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Because he
one's really
uses my
good.
fairies.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He uses my fairies.
Yeah, you can take a little bit from different people.
Yeah.
There was like, I forgot his name, last name Key, I bought his whole program set. And his questions were like so ideal. If anyone's ever grown up in sales talk with Tom Hopkins, so he was like the ultimate just salesman, suited up, slick back hair, everything. And then he created a program for part-time salespeople. Sell like a, you know, it was like sell like a lion, but be a lamb, or be a lamb, but sell like a lion. And his thing was, he never said bad words like contract, signature, sign here, just do away with that language. And it became,
True. I
hey,
think it's-
I need you to just autograph this
I
and
remember
get
that.
started.
Yeah, get your autograph
You
right
know,
here.
it's
This
not a
is long
sale.
time ago.
Right.
Yeah, they used to say that.
That's exactly it. It's not a sale, it's
Still
an
do that?
experience, you know,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff. And you go to Mike Ferry and it's like, it's a sale, it's a
Yeah.
contract, you know, it's like, oh, it's totally the opposite. All right, classify by able, ready, and willing. Or you can say ready, able, and willing, instead of the able, gotta look for the raw clientele, right? Focus becomes increasingly possible in direct proportion to how clear you are about what you want, when you want it, and what you must do to get it.
Very true.
Oh,
Very true.
anyone want to drop anything on that, whether you're on Zoom or here in person?
I was telling her when we were talking about it, we're like, we have the two down.
Mm-hmm. Focus,
Uh,
or
the
clear on what you want
right?
and when you want it.
And what you must do to get it. And that's the thing that, well, I speak for myself.
Oh, I'm with you.
I'm gonna
Yeah. You guys have done your goals like the 135, the 411, or some version of that, or no, that's right, okay.
Someone.
We're gonna, I'll talk to Stephanie about doing a 135 and a 411 class in June. Whether or not you're at, we'll do one because Q3 is coming up. And for a lot of us, I actually treat July as my end of year, you know, so June is like my December, right? Like, oh my God, you gotta get everything in. And the thinking behind it is you then sprint or build from July onward. Now, when you go to the new year, you're not like, oh, cool, Christmas, see you guys, I'm out until February. It's kind of like you're still building that momentum, goes right into 2023, and you're doing like 10 deals in month one, right? This year we did 4 deals to start the year, which really kind of catapulted this year. But that was from work that started in September, essentially, that manifested in or closed essentially in January. So especially like yourself, Heather, I think of you getting your license, it's like, oh, cool. You kind of pad the field a little bit. So by the time you take your test, pass your test, there's probably 5-10 people who are just like, oh, cool. My timeline fits you getting your license, right? And then they're ready to do business with you right then and there. I bring that up because what you must do to get it, that last piece, if you look at your goals for the year, for the quarter, whatever, and your goal is 10 transactions, and the 10 transactions equal, you know, $10,000 each, example, probably a lot more. So at the end of the year, you're making 100,000. Now you're gonna decide, okay, so these are 10 families I'm gonna impact. What are the 4 lead generation pillars I'm gonna work to attract 2 clients per lead generation pillar or 3 clients per lead generation pillar? So if you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna work my sphere of influence, great. Let's break that down into at least 3 or 4 groups. Core, past clients or past associates, our strategic partners, our general SOI. So like from one group, you potentially are gonna get 2 transactions per group. That's 8 transactions just from one pillar of your game plan. Awesome. Now I'm gonna start a geographic farm where I live. Lake Balboa, Woodland Hills, Encino, wherever we're at. Awesome. Monty's in Bell Canyon. So great. From that, maybe in year 1, I might not expect a whole lot, but if I can get 1 deal from my farm, killer. Right now you're at 9 deals. Great. I'm gonna host open houses twice a month religiously, 24 times this year, right? Accounted for days off, vacation, all sorts of different things. And my goal is to get at least 2 deals from hosting open houses that transact. So now you're at 11 deals. Hey, I'm exceeding my goal. My 4th pillar will be OpCity, Rise, whatever algorithm we're on. My goal is to get 1 deal from that. That's 12 deals over the course of 4 lead generation pillars, right? Aussie SOI, I kind of broke that down even more because I'm a big believer in it. But you can get essentially a dozen deals from 4 pillars and you break those down, right? And when I say you're working 4 pillars, it doesn't mean that you're working all 4 every day. Your farm, you might only do twice a week. Remember the open houses, you're not doing it every week, you're doing them 2 weekends a month if that, or at least twice a month. Maybe you work Sundays, but you're off on Saturday. You work Saturdays, but you're off on Sunday, right? Or you work Saturday, Sunday, you're off Monday, Tuesday. However you want to kind of work that time, that downtime in. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, for sure. You're welcome. And the focus, because then all of a sudden for me at least, I was relating the phone call, which was a lot of pain to make a chicken call to someone that I had a lot of respect for, but was like, oh, no, I don't want to tell them real estate or whatever, or bother them. That was kind of my internal language. I was bothering them by giving them a call, pestering them. Once I related, like, wow, if I call them, statistically, they are selling a house or buying a house within the next 5 years, just flat out statistically. Well, why shouldn't they work with me? If they're going to work with somebody else anyway, they're going to do this with somebody, you know what? They're going to be screwed if they don't work with me. And that got me to overcome my fear of calling them because I was afraid that someone else would screw up the deal for them or overcharge them or whatever. Great, let me just have the deal. And then that kind of fed into my lack of confidence. It helped me overcome that. And it kind of said, wow, hey, if I actually do help them, I get to chip away at this monolithic number that I put in here because I've never made that much money before. Cool. And then it started evolving. I was like, wow, if I work more with more and more people that I know, then I don't have to door knock after 3 o'clock. I can just go pick up my kids and hang out. what a concept. Now I was feeding in good feelings and avoiding hurt and pain, all to make phone calls to people that I was originally a chicken and calling.
It just feels good, no, once you get that done.
Yeah, totally. And then you're like, cool, well, that was 5 people. Nope, that was easy. Let me call 50. You know, and then you kind of 10x it, and then you start creating momentum in kind of in your world, right? And then it's mushrooms. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool. I have so much business going on, and you do something stupid like you stop doing it, you close the deal, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm back at 0. I got to go back and do it again. So you'll learn those failure moments, and hopefully we're like in your ear, like, keep going. Don't let the deal get to you. You got enough time to do all the paperwork. Like, you totally have enough time to do the paperwork. So promise me, you guys, when you guys are kicking ass, that you keep that at least an hour. Give yourself at least an hour of calling your database or whatever that lead generation activity is, and another half hour to an hour of follow-up. Promise me, 2 hours.
Do you still like suggest doing
4 of whatever we choose, or once we see like, okay, where the most of the leads are coming from.
Oh, absolutely.
Focus more on that, like, let's just say it's 2 things that, it comes down to 2 things that we're doing, that it's more.
I challenge
Deeper in those.
totally. This is like Gary Keller's one thing. Like you look at the 5 things you can do to like hit your goals. Well, what can you narrow down to one? So one thing that you can do that just made everything else easier. Like Team La Familia evolved because I said farming's not for me. Or I did it.
You tried it, yeah.
Yeah, got results, got listings, got referrals, made great contacts to this day, still awesome people. I was like, no, not for me. And if you notice, I can dial down to Sphere, and even Sphere, there's like different
So
categories
you went deeper.
into it. And then if you go into our Sphere, you're like, okay, Philip, we still haven't worked the kids' school, we're not really working scouting, we're not really
We
working the
still have
church.
a lot of other options. Opportunities are endless.
Absolutely.
How do you
Like,
make the church? Like,
that I have no idea, we're just having fun going. But like for example, we donate money, they know we're in real estate, and I didn't know this, but the guy who oversees the finances is the grandpa of one of our closest friends, or the dad of one of our closest friends. So he's always kind of like, oh man, thanks for your donation, like, oh, like holy crap, that's weird, But he's always giving us a little bit of favor, and now I notice that, hey, he's like, hey, we have an event coming up. We're basically like the title company for them, right? The sponsor. So he's like, hey, would you guys be open to sponsoring like a whole ad, a whole page in the Presbyterian, whatever? We're like,
that's
sure. So we're doing it almost by like accident, or to Christine's point, we're just living our lives, right? And we're just kind of finding almost like a Jedi type situation where people know what we do and they appreciate our support. We appreciate what they're doing for our kids. And it's like this organic way into doing it. But we're not very purposeful in terms of like, oh, hey, here's our strategy. It's just like, but I'm sure if we did, if we really were like, hey, let's help grow the church and cross market at the same time, the same way we did with the neighborhood watch and the neighborhood council meeting and Panorama City, this is even more beneficial because our kids are here and we can kind of control the flow of whatever. So you kind of go where life takes you in a sense, but to your point, yeah, you totally dial down. Like I eliminated cold calls because I only got 1 deal out of it at the end of the year. And I was doing half my time on the phone was a cold call, but the other half of the time was working sphere of influence, and I was getting a ton of deals from that. So it was like immediate, like, oh, okay, I should probably focus more on what's working. And it was predictable, right? I could never build a systematic way to closing cold call deals. They basically became friends over time, and then eventually we would get something, which is great. But why start? And so for those on Zoom and those here, so like think of a football field from one end zone to another. A cold call, I'm catching that football like way back on the end zone, and then I have to run that ball until I get tackled at the 20-yard line. I can't even take a knee. I still have to run it and get pounded to build that relationship with them, right? I'm gonna get, every time I call them, it's a first down, but I'm only being in inches or yards, like little bit of space. Whereas if I call, Heather, who, let's say we know each other, even if we knew each other in high school or in a previous career or whatever, I'm catching that football at the 30-yard line, and then I'm working my way to the 50-yard line on the first or second call, right? By the time I'm in the 80-yard, right within striking distance, her and her husband are like, hey, we finally saved enough money, we're ready to buy that house. Do you think you can help us buy an casino? Right? Whereas I'm still working the 25-yard line with Brittany, who I called on a complete cold call. Because there's just no relationship. There's no like, the stranger's calling me again. You know what I mean? Like, now the reverse could happen. They're in their lives where, holy crap, we need to sell this house because we're moving instantly. Okay, great. Now we're just playing lottery.
That's the
Right.
1%er.
Yeah, that's like the 1%er who just happens to be like
Ready to go.
divorcing or whatever it is, and they need a complete stranger to handle the deal because they're not going to work with a friend at that point, whatever their boogeyman is, right? So that's just something to kind of, yeah, thanks for that, because that's so true. Eventually you realize what fits you, what doesn't, what fits your schedule, what doesn't. With our group, it's like now we can go back into ads, we can go into open houses religiously, we do micro farming, because then I'm not having to like do the postcard for 8 hours, right? You'll see people here like literally working to fit the MLS, whatever, or forward marketing to get the postcard just right. Now I just have Maureen or Karen or Josh and got the whole team just kind of working those spaces, right? So, and it's evolving. So that's how it goes. From curiosity, and you're gonna find I think we covered a ton with the curiosity portion of the questions and stuff like that. Classify your opportunities on command. You can use A, buyer, seller, B, buyer, seller, C, buyer, seller. I have mine as 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6, right? I do throw in the ones who will be ready like in a year, only because it reminds me like, hey, I should probably call them when I'm going through my list and bleeding through it. I have people to call when I feel like I don't want to call. I know there's people to reach out to, and it kind of gives you a breakdown: 0 to 2 weeks, 2 weeks to basically 2 months, and then more than 2 months would be your C clients. Any ahas on that? I know we've been covering some ground today, some different tangents, so hopefully we're all taking some notes there. We want to make sure we get out early or a little early. Qualified buyers and sellers, win-win, document, follow a checklist, abide by fair housing regulations. We're all seeing that I'm renewing my license, and by far, abide by fair housing regulations is certainly there. Document, this is where you'll save yourself a ton of time down the road when you're looking at building a team or group. You're the first 1 or 2 people you hire, all of a sudden don't have to redocument what you do. You already have like a follow-through list, right, of the things you're doing from an open house to working the sphere. If you're already gonna get into mailers and doing micro farming, that might be an easier documented checklist with forward marketing has like an intake sheet. But you can create checklists along the way if that's your personality type. If it's not, it's all good too. Your assistant or virtual assistant down the road will help you build and document your checklist and your follow through. I think Monty is a genius at having this. Like I saw his buyer presentation one time and thought, dude, that's awesome. And it was like clean. It was really good, and I still can't recreate that. So,
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Monty, you go ahead.
No, sorry. I was saying thanks for calling that out.
Oh yeah, no, you're welcome. You're welcome. No, he really did really well with that. We have buyer lead sheets. I pulled this off of, actually, believe it or not, Google. So yeah, it's PDF.
Right?
It's also in Ignite as well on the website. Initially, before that, I pulled it off of Google. There was like a team leader who had everything on a share file that was accessible to anyone in the world. But you can pull this off of KW Connect and have that in. For Evie and Brittany, you guys just, whenever you guys have to leave, just scan an email to Josh, let him database that bad boy. Don't deal with that stuff. But if you want to get in the habit of having the questions, these are great intake questions you can ask them. That'll help build the habit as well. Role play. Well, we kind of role played a little bit in terms of the Q&A. We have a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions that if we were able to answer to help kind of clear away any kind of misunderstandings or help advance you guys towards where you want to be.
I kind of like that jumbo loan idea, throwing that out there. Is that hard for someone to get? Or harder than-
I mean, ideally FICO scores like 690 or higher. I mean, that's a great Cindy question, just to be on the safe side. The client, the Zimp family, for example, they have impeccable credit and they're doing it through Logix. And I made some calls to some lenders I know, and they're very similar rate. I mean, they do say that, hey, if it's like a credit union, just have the client go through there. That's a sign of a great professional, because they're like, well, we could do it, but we're basically outsourcing it to them anyway, collecting a broker fee. So I'm like, oh, great. So Financial Partners Credit Union has a program like that apparently. Logix Federal Credit Union, Water and Power Credit Union would have something like that. Even if they're not a member, like Steve and Tamara are not members, right? But they were recommended by the first realtor they had met out there. And then they had a falling out. And I'll tell you what the falling out was. The falling out was that the realtor was just like adamant, and she wasn't wrong, that, hey, the offer has to be this, or otherwise you're wasting my time. And she said that to them. So,
Wasting your time.
yeah,
Goodbye.
thank you, whoever you are, for introducing them to a big lender and having them call me. So, we'll take it. Oh, yeah, that was pretty rough. I mean, there's different ways to tell people,
Yeah.
like,
You can't say that to them, they will walk away.
Oh,
and
yeah.
say, they don't have any real truth.
dude, yeah, like Tamara will not take any F from anybody else. And Steve and I have a similar personality
It's
where
a
we're just
little
like,
scary, you know, it's like, oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's behavior.
He's a straight shooter for sure.
Yeah.
Real quick, this is qualifying seller, so you'll see this on KW Connect. And this is a pre-listing questionnaire. So how did you hear about me? Where are you moving? What's motivating you to move there? Now they sound like pretty blunt questions, like how did you hear about me? We got an intake form or referral, I'll kind of like reference, how we know each other. Because typically if they're calling us, immediately they'll probably say, hey, Heather recommended us that we get connected. Or they might start off on a text message. So yeah, I'm not gonna re-ask, like, how did you hear about us? So it'd be more like, hey, this is fantastic. Thank you for connecting through Heather. If you don't mind me asking, how do you know Heather? Or how do you know the referral? Oh, we're coworkers. Oh, she's my cousin, whatever. Awesome. Now we're gonna build more of a bond. Where are you moving? What brings you out to fill in the blank and all that fun stuff? Role play that, communicate with your database, add A, B, and C buyers and sellers to touch plans. And then we keep harping on the 19 to 36 one to cement. For those online watching or here, I usually, quite honestly, will just do the 1 a month email. If they're a seller, it's a lot easier because it's a monthly neighborhood nurture. If they're a buyer, I still send them that, but I'll manually click on the areas that they're looking to buy in. Right, so if I know they're buying in Inglewood, I will go to the map, type in Inglewood, zoom in, and then click box the entire area, including parts of Westchester or parts of that hillside. I forget the name of it, but then that whole area will get tagged up, and then at least once a month they're going to receive that.
Rolling Heights, is it?
Oh, nice. Madeira. Is it Madeira?
I don't
Madeira?
know, I
Well,
thought
Ladera Heights. There you go. Not Madeira. Yeah, Ladera Heights. There you go. And yeah, you're like, hey, Phil, these prices are like insane. I get it. But I'll have that. Lead follow-up plan, follow-up, convert, save, top of mind, qualify buyers and sellers. So anytime you hear someone tell you, Brenda, you need to lead generate, just in your head, translate that to, I need to lead generate and follow-up, right? Because the follow-up is just as key, if not more important than the new lead generation. Because we can all meet, like Elizabeth Veronica who says, I have a fantastic time meeting people, it's the follow-up, right? If you feel like you're hitting too much lead gen, hate to say it right now, but there is a point where you're probably spending too much time lead generating and there's not a whole lot of appointments going on, there's probably a follow-up and conversion type muscle that we need to develop. It's like you're lead genning and you're building like strong upper body and then your lead follow-up are your skinny legs. Right? That's probably the best thing I can think of. Because I saw this dude that just like massive up here, and he and I have the same legs. I'm like, dude, awesome. But, are you teaching class today? Oh, I'm done. Guys online, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah.
And we will get back after it. So next Wednesday, just some heads up, is bowl. No meeting, no Ignite next Wednesday, but it'll be on Friday. Yeah, Sheridan, Universal, Friday, back to Ignite. See you guys.
Thanks so much.